Start spreading the news. Well, I'm not leaving today, but I have left before. I've left and gone different places. But today we're going to talk about someplace specific, as he said so wonderfully. Uh, New York, New York. I've been there a few times, and I wanted to talk about two specific trips. One was my 40th birthday. I had decided at some time that I would celebrate my 40th birthday by going to see David Letterman. That's when he was still on the air. And I had looked at the calendar and I saw that my birthday would be falling on a weekday. So I think I must have sent for tickets like at least a year in advance, maybe longer. But I wanted tickets for January 6th. And eventually I got a thing back. I got 2 tickets. And I arranged with my sister Barb, who, as you all know, lives in upstate New York. And what I did was, I'm trying to think, I think I took the bus up that time. That's what I'm thinking. I think it must have been when my car wasn't running. See, I took the bus up. I probably went halfway and they met me or something. Not sure that part, but that's not important to the story anyway. So why bring it up? What's wrong with you people? So I went up to Barb's, and what we did was in the morning of the 6th, Alan, her husband at the time, it was husband number 4, I think. He gave us a ride to the train station. We took the train down into New York. Got there without too much trouble. And we're in Grand Central Station, walking across Grand Central Station. And someone yells, "Hey, Barb!" And it was some broad the Barb knew. I mean, what's the odds that you're going to cross paths in Grand Central Station at that specific day and time? But anyway, but then I think we must have taken a subway, yeah, to get over where the theater was. And of course, we were there like way early in the day. And we wandered the neighborhood. We went to theater to see the Ed Sullivan Theater. Went to see, the layout, what we'd have to do, and then we wandered around. I mean, we stopped in the Hello Deli with Rupert G., who Dave used to feature on the show a lot. And we would have got something to eat, but he didn't have like tables. It was all takeout. So we were thinking we'd get a couple of hoagies after the show and take them back home with us. But he closes before the show lets out. But we did go to a pizza shop. I don't remember the name. I remember there's a guy that Dave had on the show a couple of times. And we got some pizza in there. And one of the things I remember from that trip is it's odd how everything in New York City that you buy comes out to an even dollar amount. It's never, like $7.89 or whatever. It's $8 or $7.50, which isn't really an even dollar amount. But anyway, I remember that with the pizza, because it was like, I don't even remember now, but it was like, slice of pizza, uh, $2.85. And somehow, you know, four slices and a couple of sodas came out to an even $10. Anyway, but we went there and we stopped in the place. I forget what it was called, but people who watched the show would know it's where Sergio and Mujibur worked. And I remember, I think it was Mujibur wasn't there at the time, but Sergio was, because I seem to remember getting a picture with him, but I think bought a couple like souvenir type things in there. But then we went back and we were waiting, to be able to be let into the show. I forget now. I think they taped like around 5. We were out there early and we got to talking to a usher. He came out and he gave us the lowdown on when they actually start letting people in and stuff, and just where everybody lines up, all their little things. And we were talking to him, and it turned out he had gone to Penn State because talking and saying about being from Pennsylvania and stuff. He said, "Oh, what were you studying there?" I thought for sure he was going to be like a theater major or something. And he said, "I was pre-med." And me and Barb both at the same time went, "Oh, I bet your mother's so proud." Anyway, so we got all the lowdown on that. And later on, when other people started coming, and we, growing up as we did in the Hicks, didn't think anything of actually talking to people and stuff. And we're like, "Oh, you got to line up over here, and this goes this way." And then, so as all these people came, didn't even think about the fact that we were kind of portraying ourselves as people in the know. And then I remember when they were getting ready to let people in, a guy came out first and he said, "Well, I don't know, our seats are kind of small. Not sure where we can set you that you'll be comfortable." And so he took me and Barb in, and then we were like down front off to the side there. The seats were fine. But anyway, so we were taken in early. And then after a while, other people filed in. And again, not really thinking about how all this looks to other people. And after everybody got in, and then I think the band might have been playing for a while, but then they showed one of Dave's old bits. I think it was one where he was working takeout window at McDonald's or someplace and messing with customers. And then Dave came out and talked for a little bit. And I remember the musical guest that night was B.B. King, which was cool. And, of course, they did play during the commercial breaks. And B.B. was out there on stage for it all. But it was, it was an interesting show. It was fun to watch it being done and that. And afterwards, we went outside. We let out and we were out there in front of the theater. And this one lady came back and she goes to get in and said, "Oh, no, they locked the doors." And she said, "Oh, I left," she said she left her purse in there or something. And I said, I don't know, maybe you can try over at the side door. Maybe if you knock, someone will hear you. And then she said, "Well, can't you call somebody or something?" She goes, "I know you have pool here." And that's when we realized that just because of us getting there early and having the lowdown and then being taken early, the other people saw us as VIPs. Wish I would have known that ahead of time. But and we went and got the train, went home, and, well, to Barb's home. And I remember one other thing I remember about the trip. I remember Mary Helen, who I don't know was somewhere between the age of 5 and 40 at the time, made me a birthday cake in her easy bake oven. That was cool. But that was a fun trip. But that was one of the trips I wanted to talk about. And I talked about that longer than I probably should have. Because the next trip was a group trip. This happened a few years later. And I remember it came about because I was talking to Barb and she had gotten some kind of a thing. She was on a list for someplace, but there was a new talk show starting. And she got a thing in the mail about being able to get tickets to go see it. And I'm pretty sure we ended up getting tickets for the very first day of their taping. And it was called Jack and Allie. I remember the lady's name was Allie Wentworth. You could IMDb her. She's a small-time actress. And I forget Jack's name. Well, if you look up Jack and Allie. And I know that Jack guy, he's done some other things too. But anyway, one of the things I remember about it is that show actually started the same day as Ellen DeGeneres' show. And I can even remember when we were standing there like in line, I saying to Barb about Ellen and said, "Boy, I wish we could have gone to see that instead." But it's funny, that Jack and Allie, I don't know if it lasted like a full season or whatever. And Ellen went on for I don't know how many years now. She just went off the air. Anyway, but to get back to the trip itself, so Barb got a bunch of tickets. There was her and Ellen and me and Rick and Ellie and Corrigan. And me and Rick and Ellie and Corrigan drove up to Barb's, which was an interesting trip because any of you who knew Ellie, she drove a lot. And I don't know how she never killed anybody. She was an interesting driver. I remember I sat up front. And so I was the navigator. And I remember one specific point when we were on our way back and we're coming down 81. And I say to her, okay, 80 will be 2 exits. And then we go farther and it's like, okay, so 80 is going to be our next exit. And we're driving along. I think that was probably like about a half a mile before the exit came up. Should have been plenty of notice for any normal person. And we're coming and I'm seeing the off-ramp going. And I go, "That's our exit." And she's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" You know, it's like you had to tell her like turn by turn. Anyway, the way up, I remember one of the interesting parts on that trip, we went up and, Barb's was like a 6-hour drive. You go out 80 and up 81, then you get off on the Bob and go across Pennsylvania. And I think to like 17 in New York. Anyway, then you'd go out through all these back roads and stuff. But there's this one part, I forget which town it's at. Barb can tell you. Hey, Barb, tell everybody where that is. You can just like sort of drive through, but there's also, you can take just a little detour and it goes across an old 1-lane bridge, covered bridge, which is a cool little thing. And I always remember, so we go up and, it's a 1-lane bridge. It wasn't much wider than like Ellie's car. And we get up and of course, it's old wood kind of rickety. I'm sure it's safe, but it just gives you that feel because it was obviously built for, wagons and horses. So we just Ellie goes easing up to the bridge. And then she goes to me, she goes, watch this. she gets there and she put the car in neutral and hit the gas, vroom! And I just remember Corrigan in the back seat going, what are you doing? What are you doing? So, I don't know, maybe it was a had to be there thing, but it was a good laugh. And anyway, we got to Barb's and Alan rented a van from someplace for us all to drive down to the city the next day. And one of the things about the trip down that was funny, I remember, there was 6 of us, 3 rows. I was sitting up front, Barb was in the middle row. And she brought this bag with her. I don't know if it was probably like a thermal bag type of thing. And she brought snacks and that because figured we weren't going to be eating breakfast anywhere or anything. But so on the way down, and that's a couple-hour drive down. So she said, "Did anybody want anything? I got stuff for sandwiches and that." And it was like, well, yeah. Hey, I'll have a ham sandwich. Oh, okay. And she gets out, bread and ham. And what do you want on there? I said, I guess mustard. Okay. Well, you got any Swiss cheese? Oh, yeah, I got Swiss cheese. And so far this doesn't sound that weird, right? Except then somebody else, asked for something different. I don't know, like bologna or something. Oh, yeah, I got bologna. How about peanut butter? Yeah, I got peanut butter. And it became like a game, It just sounded like something on one of those old comedies from like the 30s or 40s or something, where didn't Harpo Marx carry a bag and he'd pull all kinds of stuff, and that's what it was like. It was like, well, hey Barb, do you have any caviar in there? And it's like, all I have is beluga. Do you want that with a wheat cracker or rye cracker? It was just. I always tell people, if you're going to travel, go with Barb and have her bring her magic bag. But then we went down to the city, and of course we had time to go around. I know we went to Ground Zero, and at the time there was no memorial or anything. And we went to see the aircraft carrier. Oh, I forget what it is, but it's permanently docked there. It's a tourist thing now. Oh man, I should know what it's called. And then we had decided to we're going to eat at this place. I forget what it was called, but it was like a horror theme. Jekyll and Hyde's, I think it was called. So we went there, and we were like early. We were pretty much, I think, the only customers in the place, which was kind of cool, but I guess also we missed part of the entertainment of the place. When I guess whenever they're full, they do things to entertain people. I don't know, but anyway, so the waiter, we're there talking. The waiter's walking by, and he goes, "I think I detect people from central Pennsylvania." He's like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" And he says, "Oh, I'm from Tyrone, PA." Now, those of you who aren't from around here, Tyrone is a town. It's, I guess about a 30-minute drive from here. Anyway, so it was kind of funny. And it turned out he was talking, and he said, "Do you remember a couple years back when somebody drew a chalk outline on the road?" And here this was like just a couple miles from where Ellie lives. She goes, "Yeah, I remember that." And people called the cops and everything. It's like, what went on here? And he said that was him and his friends him and one of his friends went out and did that. And, they drove, it was probably like, 5 or 10 miles from Tyrone. And they went out and just picked this random back road and drew a chalk outline. And they, I guess, it was satisfying for them because they actually got the tension in that. But anyway, that was kind of funny. It's kind of like when we went with Barb and that lady yelled at us in Grand Central Station. Who'd have thought you'd go there and the waiter would be from near home? And now this was no surprise. He was actually a actor, looking for work, waiting tables to pay the rent. Anyway, we did that. Can't remember. We visited any other places. We walked around. I remember at one point we were in this neighborhood. I know. They were filming Law and Order on this one street, and I forget. Seems like we spotted Jerry Orbach or somebody, but we were standing there. And it wasn't not much was happening, but we were like watching stuff, and this lady came out of the apartment building, and we were talking to her, and I remember somebody asked how much it cost to get an apartment in her building. She said, well, she was rent control. She'd been there for like 20 years or something. So her apartment was only, like $80,000 a month or something. But anyway, I remember we went to the show. They let us in, and first went in, and they had like a lounge area, and they had snacks in there. And I remember there was one lady, and I forget what all they had. It's like, I think like little like tea sandwiches and stuff like that. I don't remember. But this lady was like stuffing all kind of stuff in her bag. Anyway, we went in, watched the show. It wasn't anything too extraordinary, talk show. But of course, it's always interesting to see the makings of shows like that. If you haven't done it before, to see just the cameras, and of course it's always interesting too to see just how big, or actually how small, the theaters are, because the way they portray them on TV, you'd think there's 1,000 people in there, and actually they're pretty small. Now, the Ed Sullivan Theater, it actually was pretty big. But anyway, so yeah, we saw the show and went back to Barb's. I can't remember what else much happened, but it was a fun trip, good memory. And, Ellie's no longer with us. Barb and Ellen are no longer married, but it's still a good memory. Anybody have any questions? I know I keep saying to people about be feeling free to comment, and even though, a lot of times I'm afraid people think I'm soliciting comments the way the big guys do, because for them, the ones that are monetized, it helps them make money, but there's no way I'll ever be big enough for that sort of thing. I honestly do. So any of you guys that were on the trip, if there's things I forgot, or something you thought I should mention, or if I got something wrong, I'm pretty sure I didn't leave anybody out of this. But throw it in the comments, huh? Anyway, peace out.